There's the snap. The game is over. The Chargers know it. Their fans know it. And the Rowdy Buck bunch across the field behind our benches making more noise than the Chargers. The Buccaholics. The Buccaholics. The Buccaholics are standing proud in red. The game is over. The Rowdy Buck bunch. The Buccaholics. The Buccaholics are standing proud in red. The game is over. The Rowdy Buck bunch. Buccaholics.
Fantastic.
Buccaholics.
Fantastic.
Buccaholics. Buccaholics.
Fantastic.
Buccaholics.
Fantastic.
Buccaholics.
Fantastic.
Buccaholics. Buccaholics.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
What's going on, Buccaholics? It is Jay back with you one more time for episode 3 of Buccaholics Fan-tastic. 3 episodes in. We've been doing this for a couple of weeks now. We are a little bit late this week. The hurricane has had an effect on just about everything, folks. We're going to talk a little bit about that later on, maybe vent a little bit my frustration at the way things have played out. But before we get any further into any of that, I do want to say to all of our friends, our family, our fan family in South Florida and Central Florida, we are thinking about you. We are hoping for nothing but the best for you, hoping that that storm will take a turn and that you guys will all be safe. If you're down there, please be smart. Get out of the way if you can. Get out of the path of that storm if you can. If you haven't seen any of the videos of the damage that it's done in places like St. Martin, you don't want to be there for that. You really don't want to be there for that. So please take care of yourselves. If you're battening down the hatches and you're staying still, I know the feeling. I grew up in Florida. I know what it's like to sit to ride out the storm. If you're going to do that, please make sure that you're safe, make sure that you're stocked up, and make sure that you're ready because it could be a long haul. This Irma sounds like a real bitch. And I don't even want to have to hear about any of our friends or any of our family hurting themselves in the midst of all of this madness. So please take care of yourselves. Let's get into it. We're on episode 3, and I have decided with this show that I wanted to try and start out with some of the people that have helped to make the Buccaholics the group that I love so much. It's the reason why this podcast exists. Is this group, and the Buccaholics are the reason why you're watching this right now. If it wasn't for this group, you would never have heard of me. You certainly wouldn't be tuning into YouTube to listen to me talk shit about the Bucks. I have had the opportunity in episode 1 to bring on the Godfather, the primo Buccaholic himself, Art Oropeza, and this week we have the opportunity to bring on another one of the original Buccaholics. We refer to this group of guys as the first 9 guys that were a part of the Buccaholics. And I am so excited this week to have on another one of those original first 9 Buccaholics, the artist himself. What's going on, Jake?
Not much, Jay. Hey, I'm glad you had me on the show. I appreciate it.
Hey, I'm excited to have you on, man. It's going to be cool to kind of go down the list of all of the original Buccaholics as we get into these early episodes. And I've gotten a chance to get to know some of you guys a little bit, but I know that a lot of other people out there don't know much about us as a group or as individuals. And that's kind of why I wanted to start out with some of you guys. So I want to start right out with you, Jake. And first of all, tell me a little bit about you. Tell me about where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
All right. Well, first nine. I hail from Southern California. I was born in '81, and I've lived there pretty much ever since, except for 2 years. I actually lived in Montana, and that's where I became a Bucks fan.
In Montana, you became a Bucks fan. Now you got to explain that to me, because that sounds like it doesn't quite go together.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny. Well, just like Southern California, there's no home team in Montana. A lot of people gravitate towards the Seahawks, but for the most part, it's kind of a melting pot of teams and fans, just like Southern California. So you go to Montana, it's kind of a toss-up. We actually just had a member request, why do you like the Bucks? And his response was, well, hey, I'm from Montana, and I didn't really have anybody else to root for. So very similar to Southern California. So it's kind of a toss-up.
So how long ago was it that you became a Bucks fan?
When I was in Montana, was it 93 through 95? And it was 94 when I actually became a Bucks fan. Growing up in Southern California, I was actually a baseball player, Little League growing up. And when I went to Montana, I was introduced to football. There's really no baseball when it's out there 0 and snowing. So I had to get used to football. And
so what was it that caused you to kind of gravitate toward the Bucks?
Well, as I got more entrenched in football and became aware of the players and started watching the games every Sunday and things like that, 94, I don't know if a lot of you are aware, but Marshall Faulk was the hype coming out of that draft. Running backs were really popular, but Marshall Faulk in that draft coming out of San Diego State, a lot of people were fans of his, and as I was as well. But as the season went on, another running back actually caught my attention, a lesser-known running back, but still really good, 32. I go, who is this guy, And as I started seeing more highlights, he made his way into my football card collection. I ended up getting a lot more Eric Rhett cards, but before you know it, I'm collecting Trent Dilfer as well and some Hardy Nickerson cards. And from there, I just kind of got to know the team a lot better. And then one day I just kind of man. That's kind of how it went down.
Well, it's always interesting to me to see who the players are that attract us to a team, because almost every time I ask the question, how did you become a Bucks fan, or what is it that drew you to the team, I end up hearing people talk about one particular player.
Yeah.
So I get that. Tell me, what was it that you saw in this guy that made you want to watch him play?
Honestly, it's very similar to the reason that I like the Bucks in general. It's kind of going for the underdog, the lesser known team. That's just how I am. I didn't want to go for, a Cowboys, Steelers, Patriots team. I wanted to go for that lesser known team because one day, when they're on top, it's that much sweeter, and that's kind of how it was, from the very beginning of being a Bucks fan. It's been pretty rough. And then, 2002, 2003 came and it was all worth it. But it was pretty much when everybody else was talking about Marshall Faulk coming out of that draft. Eric Rhett had a pretty good season, and that's pretty much what started it.
You kind of you picked an interesting time to decide to become a Bucks fan. Nobody coming in the 90s, nobody can accuse you of being a bandwagon fan for sure.
No, not at all. And that's what I was going for.
It's kind of funny because for me in the 90s, I was kind of like, I had been a Bucks fan for a long time at that point, and I was desperate for something to happen. And you talk about Eric Rhett coming in and the hype of Marshall Faulk compared to that quiet consistency that we saw starting to build in the team right around that time. So it was definitely an interesting time. Have you had the opportunity to go to Tampa to see a game?
No, not yet, man. I haven't made my way out there. That's definitely on the bucket list. Not just once, but over the course of, I hope to go many times. But I haven't been yet. Hopefully this season, maybe I can plan something later on in the season. But yeah, not yet. just like a lot of Bucs fans out here in Southern California. It's on the bucket list.
That's very true. I think the Buccaholics, we're going to change it to the Buccaholic list instead of the bucket list. Since so many of us are, as I refer to us, displaced fans of the team.
Definitely.
So, what has it been? What has your experience been being a fan so far separated from the team? Now, obviously, it's changed in the last year or two, at least for me it has. But tell me a little bit about what that was like in Montana and then coming back to California and being a Bucs fan in a place that's so far separated from the team.
Well, it's you have your ups and downs. It's good and bad. I used to like going to Buffalo Wild Wings and being the only Bucs fan in the whole bar, just because you're unique in that fact. And then on those Sundays when you beat one of those really good teams, you can walk around. You're the only guy in there that's cheering for the Bucs. Before the Buccaholics, I used to go to Buffalo Wild Wings or Hooters or wherever else and hope to find a Bucs game in the corner. It didn't even have to have sound. It didn't even have to have sound. As long as the game was on, I would watch it. Merchandise. It's online or nothing. You can't walk into Lids and find a Bucs hat. Not very often, at least. So that's the tough part. Like I said, the good part about it is, we're few and far between until the Buccaholics, at least, and that's that I wanted to get going was make it so that you're not the only Bucs fan in your town. You have a lot of other Bucs fans to hang out with. So it's good and bad.
I love the way you said that you like going into Buffalo Wild Wings and being the only one. There is something kind of cool about the notoriety that comes from being that one diehard guy in a bar full of everything else, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I can totally commiserate with that whole idea of trying to find that one TV in the corner. It doesn't even matter if it has sound.
Yeah,
And
sound the plus.
And I grew up in Florida.
Okay.
I was in Northwest Florida and still trying to find one TV that had the Bucs game on.
Okay, so yeah, you understand. You know what we're dealing with out here in California. It's tough, man.
So how did you get connected with the Buccaholics? I said this a couple weeks ago when I had Art on. I've told my story 100 times, 1,000 times to anybody that'll listen. And I heard Art's kind of his version of the story. So tell me what was that whole thing like for you? How did you end up becoming part of this group that we call the Buccaholics?
Well, let's see. I'm pretty sure it was Christmas Eve. I think that was because I was actually wrapping gifts. I was surrounded by beer bottles and wrapping paper. Me and Jeannie were hanging out, just wrapping gifts, and I got a message from Art. I'm sure it said Happy Holidays or something like that. As nice as Art is, but he let me know that he was getting ready to build a group, and he wanted to know if I wanted to be an admin. He wanted to start something new, and he was trying to do something that we hadn't really seen previously in other groups that we were in. The first thing that I asked him was, who else is involved? That was what was most important to me. I wanted to know what we were building. And when he told me the admins, now known as the First Nine, I was familiar with all of you. Perfect. From the beginning, I said that, this is a good group of guys, and they share the passion for the team just like I do, and the passion for fellow fans and having a good time. So when he told me everybody who was going to be involved, I was more than happy.
And it's an interesting story that not many people know. The name of the group itself, we actually owe. You mentioned Jeannie, and we actually owe the name of the group to her. Tell me a little bit about how that all happened.
Well, when it comes to these savvy little nicknames and sayings and things like that, she's real good with that stuff. So I knew she was going to come up with something catchy. Usually a lot of the really cool things that I do with my art comes from her. She has these ideas, and I just try to put them to art. A lot of the Buccaholics artwork, originated from something that she sprung to me. Of a name of this group, we're going back and forth, and we're thinking of pirate terms and everything you can possibly think of. And we had a few good ones, and then she just goes, the Buccaholics. And as soon as she said it, I go, oh wow, yeah, we might be onto something. So I messaged you guys, and it was almost instantaneous. Everybody just said, yep, that's it. So yeah, she came up with it, and that was that.
That was I remember that moment because it was amazing to me, because it was exactly like you said. We were kicking ideas around, treasure and pirates and ships and islands and everything we could think of. And when you put that out there and said Buccaholics, it was like the entire world just stopped spinning for a millisecond. And we were all kind of like, it was instantly unanimous. We were all like, yep, there it is. Done. We don't need to talk about this anymore. It's all handled.
Because when we're throwing these, I went up good ones, and a few of you other guys had some good ones, but I had a feeling that sooner or later she was going to come up with something pretty catchy, and she did. So when I shared it to you guys, it was just instantaneous. It was unanimous. Hey, that's it. So I'm glad we did. It's a catchy. It's a cool name.
Well, and you mentioned a minute ago something about how a lot of the ideas that you get for the artwork come from her as well. And in case you missed it, guys, we're talking about Jake's girlfriend, Jeannie. She's awesome. She, in fact, at our tailgates, she's one of the people that helps us with the raffles and helps us with all the merchandise and everything. She's super active in the group, and we absolutely love her to death. And but you mentioned that a lot of the ideas that you have for your artwork come from her, and I wanted to definitely take a few minutes to talk about the artwork. If you were to go into the group and if you were able to do a search for the posts that come up the most often, the things that people ask, the questions that people ask the most often, I would have to say that in the top 5 would probably be the question, how do we get a logo for insert state name here? How do we get a logo for Montana? How do we get a logo for Kentucky? How do we get a logo for, and I always try to explain to people, it's not as simple as it seems. It's not as simple as it seems. There's a lot of work that goes into the ideas and the creation of these logos. So this is something that I've been wanting to ask you about for a while. Where do these ideas come from, and what is it that inspires you? Because some of the stuff that you've created is just amazing.
Well, thanks, Jay. I appreciate that. Well, to be honest, a lot of it just comes from passion. This is not work to me. This is not a job. It's not hard to do. It's something that I am passionate about, and I am thankful that I'm able to fuse my 2 passions, which is Buccaneers football and my artwork. So as far as coming up with these logos and things, it's not hard to do. It may take work and it takes time, but it's not hard to do. It comes easy. One thing I would say about the logos, to answer people's question, when it comes to our group, these logos aren't just logos. There's a lot more to it. Each logo that you see, each state that you see has a following. There's a group of people behind that, people that meet up, people that hang out, people that are in touch. So we don't just throw logos together just for the sake of making a logo. There's a lot more behind the logos, and that's why we take so much time on each logo and that.
You're freezing up a little bit, so if I'm talking over you, I apologize. It seems kind of, tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the deeper we've gone into this, the more detailed the logos have become. Would you agree with that?
Definitely. And that just comes from just progress. As these logos come out, I do try to push the envelope a little bit more just to make things better. Any way I can improve it. The key there is to kind of try to keep these logos still somewhat simple. With this tri-state logo, I started, it was basically a 3-state in one logo. I started with New Jersey, and New Jersey came out very detailed. And once I got done with that one state, I knew that I was in for it. It was going to be a big project. But when I was done, we were happy with the results.
I just gotta show this. I know it kind of looks backwards on here, but I got my patches. I gave one to my mother-in-law to sew onto my jersey for Arizona. But I have a few extras that I still have yet to sew on. So I had one handy just to kind of hold up and show. I think with the exception of the original California logo, I think the Tri-State and the Florida are probably my favorite ones. Do you have a favorite one?
As far as a favorite, it's kind of hard. It's hard to pinpoint one. There's things about each logo that I like. Just different things. Like the Colorado logo, it's probably one of our more simple logos, but I actually like the way it's set up. It's a circle. It's very simple, but inside of that circle, there's quite a bit of detail and color. New Mexico, same thing. That New Mexico logo that we have is somewhat simple. One reason I like that, we were able to get our captains involved in that logo. Our New Mexico captains, Nikki and Lupe, I actually talked to them a lot about the logo. The logo I had originally looked nothing like the logo that you see now. And that's because of their input. And that's one thing that I'm careful to do. I don't want to make a state logo when I'm not from that state, and I want it to be accurate. So a lot of times when I'm doing these logos, I'll get the input of somebody from that state.
I love the fact that I'm able to kind of be behind the scenes as you work on the logos. You guys don't know this, but we have a couple of private Facebook chats that we keep running all the time where we are constantly in communication, the captains and the first nine, and talking about things that are going on in the group and things that are coming up for the group. And I absolutely love being able to kind of be almost over your shoulder at times and watching the designs as they progress. How much time would you say that you put into putting together a design, for example, like the Tri-State logo? How many hours are we talking about behind something like this?
That logo would be probably a little on the longer end of the scale, a little longer to do that one just because of the detail involved. Basically, just the process is, I'll start with a concept. It's not a one session kind of thing. It's usually broken down into several sessions. It'll take anywhere from 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks or 4 weeks, just because I do work a full-time job and time is limited. But when I get a chance, I work on it. But it usually consists of getting a concept. I'll save my progress. I'll kind of stare at that logo, kind of a fresh look. And a lot of times I'll see things that I didn't see, or I'll see the way it should look. And I'll do that several times, and the logo changes a lot from the beginning to the final product. But at the end, it's something that has a lot of balance and flow. A lot of thought is put into each logo. So it's, like I said, it's a lot more than just a logo. There's a lot behind it.
If you had a message for that Buccaholic fan out there right now who doesn't have a logo for his local area yet and wants one, what would you say to that fan?
What I would say is organize. If you want a logo, the logo needs to stand for something. The logo can't be just, it can't just be you. It's got to be a group of you, there's got to be something behind it.
All right. Jake, you're freezing up again. Hold on just a second.
Like I said,
All right. Jake, you there? All right. I think Jake froze up. So here's what we're going to do. I've been promising this, and I really enjoyed the episode 1 when we had the opportunity to have my buddy Chris Kanotz come on, and we did a little segment that I have affectionately called Kanotroversy. If you don't know my friend Chris, he is one of those guys that is never afraid to tell it like a TI is, and the thing that I love about Chris is that he has the football knowledge to back up what he has to say with some actual reality, some actual fact. And so before we do this, the management, that being myself, has asked that I read the following disclaimer before I allow Chris to talk on the show. So here we go. It reads like this, ladies and gentlemen. The opinions expressed by Chris Karma Kanotz are not necessarily those of the Buccaholics or this broadcast. No fans were harmed in the making of Kanotroversy, although a few egos may have been bruised. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome back to the show for episode 3, Mr. Chris Karma Kanotz.
What's going on, gang?
Woo, that audio is clean, man.
Been listening in a little bit. Jay sounding good. Jake sounding good. Sounding like an artist. Sound exactly like I can totally relate to that story about being the only guy up in the Bucks in the bar repping the Bucks. I remember going a few years back in our 2-14 season. We went to Dave and Buster's over here, and it was me with a bunch of Steelers fans and a bunch of other fans. And it's that game we upset them, and I was running around in that place like the biggest asshole, and it was fine. I was like, we don't ever get to do this anymore. So
that's what we do it for, man.
Yeah, man, it's fun to enjoy being that unique individual. You know, you always get every once in a while you run into another Bucks fan. You're like, hey, what's up there, guy? Look at you being all unique in the world, not being Cowboys or Steelers fan. So, but yeah, man. So I know we had talked about the final roster and prepping a little bit for the games coming up, but obviously. As we've all talked about, the hurricane has changed that significantly. Not the fact that we don't have a game, but we got something else that's bigger to worry about. And all of our friends and fans and everybody, right there near the stadium. Man, my biggest hope is that, this thing just turns and goes out to the water and is nothing. Because when you look at it, it looks scary. It looks like it's going to fill up all the stadiums and just make soup bowls out of all of them. So. The hope is that it's much milder than predicted, but our thoughts are certainly with every single person that's in the path of the storm, regardless of where you are. You're getting our well wishes. So, but yeah, man, to move on to just talking a little bit about the final 53. Jay and I were talking briefly about it, and just like, those that remember, just a few years ago, we were flipping this entire roster. Like Lovey came in and Jason came in. And it was like, I think we turned over 40 guys in 1 or 2 seasons. And now we basically have 40 guys that have positions. Like I did a depth chart like mid training camp because I'm just a nerd like that. And so I was looking at it today because I went back and I was like, let me see how I did. So I was looking, and realistically, I'm looking at it right now. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spots going into camp. My estimation, 8 spots. And it should have been 7 because McNichols should have just had a spot, but he wound up shitting his way out of his spot. So, I can't believe that, man. Did you guys see Hard Knocks yet?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Can't believe that dude, man. Like they offered him a spot back, and he's like, I'm good. I don't think that dude's gonna last in the league, man. I do not think his head is not screwed on. He's just not gonna make it. You gotta be a student of the game, and he doesn't appear to have those student qualities. So, but yeah, I mean, in terms of who made the team and who didn't, there weren't a whole lot of surprises. I think. I was talking to somebody today, and they're like, well, who surprised you that made the roster? I'm like, I don't know if anybody surprised me that made the roster. There were certainly no surprise cuts. Like, I mean, I thought Josh Huff was going to make it, but he didn't make it because he got hurt. Same thing with Dante Dye. But you're talking about guys that are like 5th and 6th wide receivers. Like the top 4 wide receivers are locked. Our top 3, 4 tight ends were all locked. Like our starting and rotational offensive line was locked. Our 4 safeties till they pulled off that deal for TJ Ward were locked. Like it was just done. It was, are we going to keep 5 linebackers or 6 linebackers? And so there was just not a whole lot to see. There was guys that were stepping up and making an impression, but look how much harder those guys had to work to make the team this year. You know, that's when you know you're arriving. When you look at your spots that are available on your team and you realize, man, there's not much here. These guys are fighting for the crumbs. There's nobody fighting for a starting job. You know, these guys have to come in and just wow somebody to get a starting job. And, you know, it's just development and depth. And that's pretty cool to see. And drafting guys, you know, drafting OJ Howard, drafting Chris Godwin, you know, drafting Justin Evans, who looks like the worst of the developmental players that we drafted early. You know, he looks like he's got the longest curve to get ready. Beckwith looking like a steal. You know, Godwin looking like a steal. I mean, that's the great thing about being able to follow this team after all those lean years and all those bad drafts and all that bad coaching, to just be able to look up and say, you know what, and this is what I've thought for a long time, and I don't know if people really see it this way, but it's what I see. I think Jason Light is trying to build the next Patriots. He goes about it trying to build the next dynasty. And he's methodical, and he's doing it the right way, slowly through the draft, build with quality pieces, and look at where we are now. You know, the biggest concerns we got are the ones coming up with all these contracts, and that's probably the thing we got to worry about coming up going forward. But you know, hopefully the team will come together like it looks like they are, and they get that nice extra break before the Bears game to get ready. Get guys like Jack Smith healthy, get Dotson, you know, back and healthy, and give Ward a little more time under his belt. See if he's going to crack the starting lineup, or if he's still going to rotate there with Conti and Tandy. Yeah, man, I mean, there's not a whole lot on that front to say besides all that. So that's about all I got, man.
Well, let me ask you this: was it at all a surprise to you that that number 5 on that wide receiver list ended up being Reedy?
No, man. I mean, all those guys they're almost not quite the same guy. Like, that's why they wanted Huff, because Huff's faster, right? But Huff's got hands like feet, man. That dude, and he's unreliable. You know, it's like his hands are as fast as his feet. Dude can run like he can drop a ball. You know, it's like, man, his upside is Ted Ginn Jr. Okay, that's Huff's upside. If he could just be Ted Ginn Jr., imagine what he could be. You know, like I remember reading that a while back. They said with Ted Ginn Jr., like, look, we just accept the fact that he's going to drop 3 or 4 balls. That just comes with his speed. Like, okay, yep, there goes 1. Yep, there goes 2. So, you know, in terms of it being Reedy showed out, you know, when he got the opportunities. Obviously, Dye being hurt him a lot, but Dye was never great in the return game. Reedy seems to have that. But I like what I saw out of Bobo too. I mean, you know, we don't have much to say about that Redskins game, but he did actually earn his spot on the practice squad with his play in that last game. So, you know, we talked about him being, you know, arrogant. I think it's confidence and competitiveness, but people read it the other way. And I think he's just a guy that's used to being in there and competing and playing and making plays. And instead of being able to get in there, he's stuck on the sidelines, and he doesn't understand why. You know, he doesn't know what it's like to be a professional yet, but he's got the chance at least to get there. So, but Martino, I mean, you could have basically, as each one of them has a unique skill set, I guess. They're all kind of the same guy at the same time. So.
And we actually talked about this when you were on back in the in episode 1. We talked a little bit about the running back situation and who we thought was going to end up there. And one name that kept coming up in conversation, and it came up again last week when I was talking to Derek from What the Buck, was Jacquizz Rodgers.
Yeah. And
here we sit, and Jacquizz Rodgers is still that name on the list. So what do you think?
I mean, Quiz is Quiz. Like, we know exactly what we've got in him. He's going to run hard. He's basically like 5'5" and rocked out, and he's going to run hard. He might break a run here or there, but I mean, I don't see him as anyone spectacular. You know, he'll get the job done, but I think they're gonna work running back by committee. I mean, they need Barber's size. they need Sims agility, and they need Quiz to run essentially between the tackles. And I think if Quiz's running style were the same, but his height were different, he might not be in the league. Like he gets things done because he sneaks behind big linemen. And then by the time, he's on you, he's got 3, 4, 5 yards. That's why he's always been a rotational back. And as a feature back, we saw it last year. I mean, he can do it, but thank God we got Doug and he's coming back. I think that's why we only kept 3 backs. I mean, they wanted to, I think they probably were looking at keeping 4, but I guess they figured out maybe with McNichols doing what he was doing, they could let him go and get him back. And that's exactly what happened on Hard Knocks. It didn't look like the kind of guy that they could release on a practice squad waiver and get him back. He looked like somebody would grab him up. And ultimately that's what happened, but it was apparently by his choice. So, but I do worry about Quiz's health. I do worry about him being able to carry the load and stay injury free. And I am a little surprised we haven't added anyone else at the running back position. But maybe there just wasn't anybody good enough to pick up off the waivers.
Well, where are you going to make a cut if you needed to add that running back? Where are you going to take somebody out of that 53 right now?
I think we kept 10 linemen. I know we have like 9 or 10 on both the defensive line and the offensive line. So whenever Doug comes back, I assume one of those guys is going to get cut. Probably Wester. I don't know who else is on there at the moment. I looked at it, but I don't want to pull it up while we're talking and try to run it down, because ultimately it doesn't matter. I mean, they brought in a couple guys over the last couple of days and made roster changes already, and that's just what it's. That's the way the 53 goes.
We of course we had the darling of Hard Knocks, Riley Bulla, yeah. Joe Dirt, as his mom hates to have him called.
Right.
And 1 week ago, it seemed to me like the competition was either Riley Bulla or Adarius Glanton.
Okay.
And then you watch Hard Knocks, those of you that haven't seen it, spoiler alert, but it turns out that in the eyes of the coaching staff and the management, the battle was actually between Riley Bulla and Cameron Lynch.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the choice that they made there with Lynch over Bulla?
I mean, from early on, I didn't think Bulla was going to make it. I saw him in week 1 or week 2, and he's got, and I've said it several times on the page, if you could put his head on somebody else's body, he would be an amazing linebacker. The problem, and it came up again on Hard Knocks, it's come up in all the reports, he's physically limited. He's not fast. He's not agile. He makes up for it in grind, but that's what he is, and you're not going to get faster. It's not going to happen. Like I run a 4.7 tomorrow. I'm gonna run a 4.7. Like I don't care how much I train, how hard I train. I might get to a 4.68. You're not going to get a hell of a lot more agile. You're not going to flip your hips any faster. It's just, that's going to be his struggle. And he just doesn't fit in our defense. And Glanton was lights out. I mean, Glanton was with us last year. Glanton could not long snap. I thought Glanton was a lock on the roster early on. And I actually thought Jeff Knox and Cam Lynch were the 2 guys battling for the last spot. Riley was behind them. But we never heard about Knox this year, because Knox was with us last year too. So you're talking about guys that have experience in the system and are more agile and more athletic. Maybe they're not the leaders that Bulla is, but leadership isn't what this team needs now.
All right. I know, Chris, you're on a time schedule. You don't have a whole lot of time to spend with us, but I did kind of promise the listening public a little bit of controversy here. So I got to take just at least 30 seconds here and poke the bear. I got to poke the bear real quick. I need to know, Chris, what do you think I should do about my fantasy team?
Dude, don't Hey, don't nobody give a shit about your fantasy team.
Say it loud.
Or your I don't care how good you are at playing a video game. Stop posting about it. That means we're going to get a spike in posts tomorrow about Madden players and fantasy teams. No, I don't think your roster's great. No, I don't think it's awesome that you can beat somebody to a pulp on a video game. Man, stop. Please stop. Yeah. I got more to say on that, but I ain't got a lot of time. Maybe I'll put a post up about it.
There you go. All right, Chris, we're gonna let you go, man. I know you got to get on the road. I appreciate you coming back, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. Good seeing you, Jake. Keep up all the good work. And for the record, my favorite logo that I've seen so far is the Tri-State. But, I know as we get more detailed, there's going to be a Los Angeles one. I can't wait to see that with the cityscape. So,
Yeah, definitely.
Let me know when that's coming up.
All right, for sure, man.
All right, boys. Good to talk to you.
All right, Chris.
Later.
All right. That sounded like a challenge, Jake. What do you think? A Los Angeles specific logo?
Hey, or maybe we need to redo the California logo. Bring it up with the times.
Oh, see, now you got me all excited. You got me feeling all warm inside now when you start talking about updating the California logo.
Hey.
I got to tell you though, man, this is the first patch I put on this jersey. This right here is the first patch I put on this jersey, and it's still my favorite patch. It's on all my jerseys. It's one of the only ones that I put on every single jersey that I own. That's my representation right there. That's me from California from a long time. Speaking of California, I want to talk to you just for a couple minutes about something that's coming up in October. We're going to Arizona. We're making a trip again. This will be the second time for me in 2 seasons that I've made the trip from California to Arizona to watch the Bucks play, more specifically to be a part of a Buccaholics tailgate and to create an event there. Last year when we did it, we were brand new. It was our very first tailgate that we had ever held as the Buccaholics. Everything was new, and we thought that getting 80, 100 people in one place that were all Bucks fans was the pinnacle of our fan existence. And it was a beautiful thing. If you were there last year in Arizona, there was something special. Art actually talked about it in episode 1 about even though we've done bigger tailgates since then, there's something special about that first one. But we're going back this year, and one of the things that we've been trying to get ourselves involved in a little bit more over the last year has been charity, reaching out to the community, reaching out. We did some work helping out What the Buck. Right now, in fact, we have a thing running on the page. If you haven't already seen it, you want to check this out. Jake came up with a brand new design, and we're doing a fundraiser for the victims of Hurricane Harvey in Texas. Our Captain Morris down in Texas, he and his family had to move out of their home. There was so much flooding, so many people, so many fans and fan family that we have there that were affected by Hurricane Harvey. We decided to do a fundraiser with these T-shirts. So let's start there, actually, Jake, and tell me a little bit about the design that you came up with for that. Let's see if maybe we can't bump that up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the most recent design shirt that we have is the tailgate crew shirt. It's kind of your typical gym shirt, your PE shirt that you remember probably from junior high, the standard issue with a little box to put your last name put in there. We just decided to make something like that. It's a simple shirt, but it's very cool. There's a lot of detail in it. You can rip the sleeves off it and wear it to the gym. You can, wear it out and do yard work in it, or whatever you want to do. It's a very simple shirt, but very cool and catchy. And it's going to a good cause for, we're going to do it for at least another week. All proceeds will go to the victims of Hurricane Harvey.
I just hope that people will get on board with it, will buy a shirt. It's not costing you that much to get the shirt and get it delivered straight to you from Jake's living room to your living room. And you can have a piece of Buckaholic history, and you can help people out that are desperately in need of help right now. And we've talked a lot about how we wanted to what we wanted to do with that charity money, and talked about some different organizations that we might just pass it along to in order to be as efficient as possible. I think the Red Cross is probably one of the ones that's topping the list right now because we know who they are and we know what they do. When it comes to other charities that we've gotten involved in, we haven't done a whole lot. We're trying, guys, to be selective. We want to have an impact where we are. One of the places that we are as Buccaholics, and I won't even bother trying to apologize to the thousands of Buccaholics that are spread out all over the country and all over the world. But where we started was here in California. And what we have decided is that what we want to do in Arizona is we wanted to focus our efforts on a charity that comes straight from where we started in California. And Jake is actually the one that brought this charity to our attention. So I wanted you to take just a minute, if you would, Jake, and just kind of explain to us what this organization is that we're going to be raising money for in Arizona in October.
All right. So, yeah, as you said, something that was important to us was to be able to give back to a local charity, at least just, where we started in Southern California. We've already done a few different things, and that was one of our priorities, was to, do something a little closer to home, just because that's where we came from. That's where we started. We're going to do a lot of things in the future, but this is what we're going to do this time. It's Honor Flight Southland. It's an organization that it's World War II veterans with safe transportation to the World War II memorial in Washington, D.C. It's an awesome organization. A lot of these guys have never been. These are veterans of World War II, and they've never been to the memorial that was built for them. So it's a good organization, and to be honest, this is a charity that actually has a time limit. There's not going to be World War II veterans forever. So I think it's important that we show them our appreciation while we can. So that's something that's important to us, and that's what we're going to be raising money for in Arizona. Was Honor Flight Southland. Their website is honorflightsouthland.org. You can visit their site and get some more information if you want to know what we're going to be contributing to.
I remember when you first brought the organization up in our captain's chat, and we were talking about it. Honor Flight is something that I believe it's nationwide. I know that there is an Honor Flight organization in Central California, because last year and the last couple of years when I've been teaching at Merced High School, I had the opportunity to send some of my students who were in a leadership group called Link Crew to go to the airfield. Castle Air Force, the former Castle Air Force Base, is one of the places here in Central California where they actually leave and return when they go on these trips in Central California for Honor Flight. And my students had the opportunity to go and be a part of a group that actually shows up when they're coming back from their trip and welcomes them home with flags and banners, and really kind of makes a big event out of it. And when you mentioned Honor Flight Southland, I was like, that just, to me, I love the whole idea of it. There's something about being able to show that respect. And like you said, this is a charity with a time limit. This is a generation that is not going to be with us much longer.
Yeah, and they, these are heroes of one of the, the biggest war we've ever had. It's one of the reasons that we're able to do what we do today. I think it's important. It's important to honor these people, and that's, I can't be more thankful that I'm in a position to be able to do that, even if it's in a small way.
If you have never been to a Buccaholics tailgate, you may be asking yourself, well, how does a tailgate raise money for a charity? Well, there's actually several things that we do during the course of the tailgate, including giving things that we sell, product that we sell, product that we raffle, things that we raffle off. We have a lot of people that donate stuff. You're guaranteed to find at the tailgate in Arizona, you're guaranteed to find jerseys, hats, banners, flags, Buccaholic logo gear, Buccaholic shirts, anything that we can come up with. And we've had the opportunity of late, and this is not, again, something that hasn't been highly publicized, but one of the other first nine, guy named Steve Anderson, has been literally working his butt off on the business end, I guess you would call it, of the Buccaholics. And we have officially received nonprofit status. The Buccaholics is now an official nonprofit organization, which means that we are holding ourselves accountable to do what we're promising. Jake, do you have any special plans for anything that we might be raffling off or selling or giving away in Arizona?
I think that pretty much, we're going to have shirts. I know Steven's working on some bracelets. It was actually Nikki's idea. We're going to be doing some bracelets. We're going to have the pins from, I don't know if you could see that.
Oh, I saw those.
If you haven't seen them, ask about them. They're pretty cool. We're going to have another one. As far as raffles, I don't know. I think we might have some jerseys and things like that. But yeah, keep an eye out. It's going to be the Orange Crush. We're gonna come out full force, orange everywhere.
Get up close one more time so they can see those pins. You got to talk for a minute. There you go.
It's two. We're gonna be
yeah.
Out.
I almost wore my favorite Buccaholics shirt, but unfortunately it's in the laundry because I just wore it like 2 days ago. I was telling Jake the other day, guys, that I have a favorite shirt of all of my Buccaholic shirts. I have like 4 Buccaholic shirts or 5 Buccaholic shirts, and my favorite one is one of the ones that Jake did on red, and it's got the captain, as we refer to it, the captain logo on it. Absolutely love that. And as we get closer to Arizona, we may come up with some more ideas, some more things that we're going to want to do. But I think that being able to do something fun, something exciting, something unique, like tailgating in the enemy territory, like we have a tendency to do. We don't just we're not the home tailgate. What the Buck has that covered, and we love them for it. We don't just tailgate. What's that word, Jake? What's the word I'm looking for?
We invade, man. We invade stadiums.
We invade stadiums. I love that. We invade.
Invading a stadium near you.
That's right. And yeah, you got to check that out, guys. I'm going to go back on the page, and after you watch this, make sure you go back to the Buccaholics page and check out that new the new design, the Buccaholics tailgate crew design. Down at the bottom, it's kind of in the fine print down at the bottom, but it actually says that invading a stadium near you. I think that's probably my favorite part, besides the box where I get to put my name in there.
There you go. Yeah.
I thought that was the coolest. The minute I saw it, man, I'm looking at my son and he's coming home wearing his because he's in junior high. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so perfect. All right, guys, we're getting close to wrapping this sucker up. But before we do that, we got to do one more thing, Jake. I don't know if you're ready for it. I started this with episode 1, continued it with episode 2, and here we go into episode 3. The final segment of the show is a little something that I call the Flash 5. This is going to be 5 questions, rapid fire. I'm not going to give you too much time to think about them. You got to answer as quickly as you can. If you must if you must go into detail, I'll give you about 3 seconds extra just to add a little bit of detail if you absolutely have to. But I have to do this. We got to do this quick. This is the Flash 5 with the originator of the Buccaholics artwork, Mr. Jake Lucy. Before we get to it, I want to say one more time a big thank you to my buddy Chris Karma Kanotz for coming back on tonight, doing his thing. I love having Chris come on the show, second time already in 3 episodes, and I can't wait to have him back again. And I want to say a huge thank you to my spotlight fan of this episode, Mr. Jake Lucy. Jake, are you ready for those 5 questions?
Ready as I'll ever be.
All right, here we go. Question number 1. What is the best Buccaneer defensive play you've ever seen?
Man, that's an easy one. It's got to be Rondé's interception to take it home in Philly. He took us to the Super Bowl.
There we go. Pick 6 in Philly. Question number 2. Finish this sentence. Doug Martin is
my favorite Buccaneer, current Buccaneer.
Oh, there we go. See, I wasn't expecting that one. I wasn't looking for that. All right, question number 3.
Major star potential. Go ahead.
That was your 3 seconds. All right, question number 3. One game in this year's schedule that you think is a must win.
Atlanta.
All right, Atlanta. I think we got to show them. I agree.
Simple.
All right, here we go. Question number 4. If you had the chance to put the pads on and play one game, what position would you want to play?
Oh, geez. Probably punter. No, I don't know. I probably want to be a wide receiver. If I had the speed for it, I think I'd be a wide receiver.
Wide receiver. All right. And finally, last question. If you had to cut one starter from this team, who would you cut and why?
Man, that's a tough one. That's a tough question.
That's the toughest. I always save the toughest for last.
It's probably not going to be. I don't know. That's tough. It's not going to be a popular answer, but I feel like we're deep in the tight end position. I don't know. I don't know who I would take though. OJ or Brait. I know it's good to have both, but maybe an offensive lineman. It's hard. That's a hard question. I don't know if I can cut anybody. I'm going to let the experts do their job.
All right. I'm going to let you go on that one. I'm going to ask you one final replacement question. I tried to ask it earlier and you didn't want to narrow it down, but this is the Flash 5, so you got to think fast and answer faster. Last question, number 5. Of all the logos that you have designed for the group, what's your favorite?
If I had to narrow it down, I'm going to go with the original. The California logo. That's the one that started it all. I remember the first time I finished it. It was, I knew that we were on to something.
All right. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Jake Lucy forcing me to go to a 6th question in the Flash 5. That's the first time that's happened. Something tells me it's not going to be the last time that happens on this show, folks. One more time, I want to say a big thank you to Jake Lucy. Jake, any final thoughts?
I just want to go back and just clarify. I don't think I'm cutting any of our tight ends. I'm thinking about it. We're going with one of the offensive linemen. Whoever performs, most poorly, we're gonna have to cut him. But that's it.
All right. He had to take it back to question 5 of 6 tonight. That's all right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for sticking around for this episode of Buccaholics Fan-tastic. We had Chris Karma Kanotz on. My special fan spotlight guest tonight was Mr. Jake Lucy. If you love the artwork, make sure that you go on the board, post up, and let Jake know. I want to see everybody over the next few days. I want to see everybody post pictures of your favorite Buccaholic logo that Jake has designed. Everybody post your pictures of your favorite Buccaholics logo. I'm going to start a thread tomorrow, and y'all going to get to add to it. What's your favorite Buccaholics logo that Jake has designed? Let's show this guy some love. Jake, thank you so much. We are out of here.
All right, Jay. Thanks for having me.